after what's been a great few months for the Australian cricket team, do you think Justin Langer's exit could have been handled better?
Yeah, look, I believe Justin Langer was treated, quite harshly, and his leadership was always under question. Even during the T20 World Cup, even before that, and he obviously turned around, the fortunes for Australian cricket, and did really well in Australia. And I expected them to, give him a lengthy sort of extension rather than 6 months. And I feel that the Australian cricket have really let Justin Langer down, and he's been, really good for Australian cricket.
Ricky Ponting hit out at the likes of the captain Pat Cummins for not standing by Langer. Do you think he deserved more from his players?
Absolutely. I think, the players, the backroom staff, apparently were leading some of the sort of team meetings, and he was playing a sort of a behind the scenes role. But Justin Langer, he's a real fighter, intense character, and he's done really well since he's taken up coaching. So he did, really well for Perth Scorchers. Now he's done well for, Australian cricket. He should have been deserved, with much more respect. He should have been given the terms and the conditions that he wanted to have. And I just think that 6 months wasn't enough. He wanted at least another year or a couple of years for the next Ashes in England, and he deserved that. So he felt that he wasn't being treated, fairly by his own governing body, and he did the right thing to resign and leave on a high note with Australian cricket.
Now, Monty, Langer's already been linked with the England job. His methods, though, have been described as quite intense. Do you think he's the sort of coach that England need?
Well, that'll be up to the England players. Do they want an intense coach that would, really sort of ask, some honest questions, and also that sort of, I think there's a slight myth within county cricket where they say some county cricketers like to be in their comfort zone, that sort of lazy attitude. And Andrew Strauss knows that very well. He enjoyed, working with him during Middlesex, and he's a great admirer of his. And I think he could be a good option. It just depends if that's what the England players want. Do they want a coach that is really hands-on, really intense? Or do they want someone, a bit more behind the scenes where they can, be a bit observing, more like a Duncan Fletcher style, or even, Andy Flower, who's been brilliant as well. So it just depends on the England team, what style of coach they would prefer.
Who else would you like to see in contention for England, Monty?
Well, at the moment, I felt that Alex Stewart would be a really good option because he understands the system really well. He's brought some of the good players from Surrey into the England team, and he is going to go to the West Indies. And if he is successful, he may want to do that on a longer term basis. So I think at the moment, England shouldn't make any big decisions. They should see how Alex Stewart responds, to the new role at West Indies, and maybe bring in a couple of other, people along with him. Like Mark Ramprakash could be a good option, a brilliant technical coach, and he could be one of that sort of person that can have them sort of conversations about, emotionally, mentally how they felt during the Ashes, and then help them technically, during their game. Ian Bell is another one, a brilliant batsman and another good batting coach. So Alex Stewart's got a few options. And let's see how that goes. If that goes really well, then they may even just want Alex Stewart as a long-term option because it's very much players-driven now. 10 years ago, it was a different landscape for, sport in cricket teams because of the travelling and the strict COVID bubble. Players want that comfort, that they feel really comfortable with a leader that's in their own dressing room.
Just a couple of days now, Monty, until the Test series starts against the West Indies. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes. So what sort of a state are England in right now?
Well, I think, since Sir Andrew Strauss has come into the fold, he was going to, sack a few of the bigger appointments, but he knows what to do to get England back to #1 Test cricket, which he did with Andy Flower. So he will try and, mould the team in that sort of way, and he would expect, a better result in the West Indies with the lessons that they've learned, in Australia. So, we want to see a turnaround performance. We want to see the England players to learn quickly and get back, playing good Test cricket. And that's up to the players. They can't, take too much time over pondering over what's, not gone so well in Australia. They've got to work out a method quickly in terms of the batting. The batting is going to be the key, assessment for them when they are in the West Indies. Can they bat, really well? And I think they need some good batting coaches to support this young England team.